This happened a couple of years ago when I went on a solo trip to celebrate New Year's Eve in a different city. I booked a hotel room near the downtown area so I could walk to all the parties and events. The hotel wasn't anything fancy, just a small, budget place, but it was clean and seemed fine when I checked in. I spent most of the evening at a big street party and had a great time. Around 1 a.m., after the fireworks, I decided to head back to the hotel. By the time I got there, I was exhausted and just wanted to crash. When I got to my floor, something felt off. The hallway was completely silent, which was normal for that time of night, but I swear it felt different, like too quiet. I brushed it off as being tired and went to my room. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, but something was wrong. The room wasn't how I'd left it. My suitcase was open on the bed, and my clothes were scattered around. At first, I thought maybe housekeeping had come in by mistake, but then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. There was a coat hanging on the back of the chair. It wasn't mine. I stood there for a second, trying to figure out what was going on. That's when I heard it. The sound of someone breathing. It was coming from the bathroom. I froze, my heart pounding. The bathroom door was closed, but the light was on underneath. I couldn't move. I just stood there, staring at the door, trying to decide what to do. Before I could make a decision, the handle started to turn. I didn't wait to see who or what was inside. I bolted out of the room and ran down the hallway to the front desk. The guy working there must have thought I was crazy because I was practically screaming, telling him someone was in my room. He called security, and they went up to check it out. When they came back, they told me the room was empty. No coat, no scattered clothes, nothing. It looked exactly how it had when I first checked in. I insisted on switching rooms, and they gave me a new one on a different floor. I didn't sleep at all that night. The weirdest part? When I checked out the next morning, the front desk clerk asked if I'd enjoyed my stay in room 304. I had been in room 204. To this day, I have no idea what happened. I know what I saw and heard, but I can't explain any of it. I've stayed in plenty of hotels since then, but I always double-check the room before I go to sleep. I spent last New Year's Eve at a small cabin in the mountains with my girlfriend. We wanted to get away from the city and have a quiet night, just the two of us. The cabin was really nice, cozy, and surrounded by trees. We brought some snacks, lit a fire, and planned to stay up until midnight to watch the fireworks from the deck. Around 10 p.m., we started hearing noises outside. At first, it was just twigs snapping, which didn't seem like a big deal. It's the woods, after all. But then, we started hearing heavier footsteps, like someone was walking around the cabin. I went to the window to look, but it was too dark to see anything. I told myself it was probably just an animal, maybe a deer or something. But the footsteps didn't go away. They kept circling the cabin, slow and deliberate. My girlfriend was starting to get freaked out, so I decided to grab a flashlight and check it out. I went outside and shined the light around, but there was nobody there. When I came back inside, she was pale and shaking. She said she'd seen someone standing at the edge of the trees, just watching us. I looked again, but I didn't see anything. Still, we locked all the doors and windows and tried to ignore it. Around midnight, we finally started to relax a little. We went out on the deck to watch the fireworks. As we stood there, I glanced back at the cabin and saw something that made my stomach drop. In the window, there was a face. It was only there for a second. but I know what I saw. Someone had been watching us from inside the cabin. We didn't stay the night. We packed up and left right after that, driving straight home. We never figured out who it was or how they got in, but I'll never spend New Year's Eve in a cabin again. Last New Year's Eve, I went to a house party with a couple of friends. It wasn't anything fancy, just a bunch of people crammed into someone's house, drinking and celebrating. The house was old and kind of creepy, but nobody cared because the music was loud and everyone was having a good time. Around 11 p.m., I went to the kitchen to get another drink, and that's when I noticed a door off to the side that I hadn't seen before. I asked the guy hosting the party about it, and he said it led to the basement. He told me it was off limits because the stairs were sketchy, but I couldn't help being curious. I don't know why, but I wanted to see what was down there. After a few more drinks, I convinced one of my friends to come with me. We waited until nobody was looking, and then slipped through the door. The stairs were just as bad as the host had said, narrow and creaky. It was pitch dark down there, but we had our phone flashlights, so we kept going. At the bottom, the basement was mostly empty, except for some old furniture and boxes. There was this weird smell, like mildew mixed with something else I couldn't identify. We were about to head back upstairs when my friend pointed out something in the corner, a door. It was small, almost like a crawl space. I don't know what I was thinking, but I decided to check it out. I opened the door, and inside was this tiny room, maybe 6 feet by 6 feet. There was nothing in it except for a single chair in the middle of the floor. It looked like someone had been sitting there recently. The chair had scratches all over the arms, like someone had been gripping it really hard. We both got a bad feeling and decided to leave. As we were heading back up the stairs, we heard the door to the basement slam shut. When we got back to the party, I asked the host if anyone else had gone down there, and he swore nobody had. To this day, I don't know what was going on in that basement, but I haven't been to a house party since. I don't know if this is scary or just plain weird, but it stuck with me ever since it happened. A couple of years ago, I went out with some friends for New Year's Eve. We went to this big party downtown and stayed until after midnight. Everyone was drunk, including me, so we all decided to grab taxis home instead of driving. It was freezing outside, and the streets were packed with people trying to get rides. My friends and I started walking down the street, hoping to find a taxi that wasn't already full. After about 15 minutes, I finally spotted one. It wasn't marked like the usual taxis, but the guy driving it waved at me and said he was available. I was too tired and cold to care about details, so I jumped in. The driver was an older guy, maybe in his 60s. He didn't say much, just asked for my address and started driving. At first, everything seemed normal. He was quiet, and I just stared out the window, thinking about how tired I was. But then I started to notice that he wasn't taking the usual route to my place. I asked him about it, and he said there was a lot of traffic on the main road, so he was taking a shortcut. That made sense, I guess. But the further we went, the less familiar the area looked. I'd lived in that city my whole life, but I had no idea where we were. I asked him again if he was sure this was the right way, and he didn't answer me. That's when I started to get nervous. The street we were on was completely empty. No other cars, no streetlights, no houses, just darkness. I told him to stop and let me out, but he kept driving. I started yelling, telling him I'd call the police if he didn't pull over. That's when he finally slowed down. The car came to a stop, and he turned around to look at me. I'll never forget his face. He didn't look angry or anything, just blank. He didn't say a word, just opened his door and got out. I didn't wait to see what he was doing. I grabbed my bag, opened my door, and ran as fast as I could. I didn't even look back. Eventually, I found a main road and flagged down another taxi. A real one this time. The driver asked me if I was okay because I looked so freaked out. I just told him to take me home. To this day, I have no idea who that first driver was or what he was planning to do. But every New Year's Eve, I think about it and wonder what would have happened if I hadn't gotten out when I did. Trace your way in the darkness. Like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell. Each step leads you back to the next haunting story.